We'd like to welcome you to the ACSA Campus Tour, where every week we will be speaking one-on-one with a school district administrator, talking to them about the successes and challenges that they are working on within their school communities. We'll also focus on one particular topic involving public schools and the COVID-19 pandemic. And joining us today is Gina Potter, the superintendent from San Ysidro School District down south. Gina, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to hit three important questions right now. The first one, since schools have closed, districts have had a lot of things to work through, a number of different subjects to confront, whether it's been school nutrition, distance learning, childcare, even just communicating to your school community. Can you talk a little bit about the successes and challenges you guys have faced during these 6 or 7 weeks?
Well, first of all, Naj, it's such an honor to be on the show with you. Thank you so very much to you and ACSA and your leadership during this very difficult time of the coronavirus pandemic. Here in San Ysidro School District, I've got to tell you that I've seen the most remarkable, heroic efforts of our educators within our community. When it comes to serving meals, within a week after our schools were physically closed, our child nutrition workers, they really stepped up to the plate. They were able to come and immediately start serving meals to all of our children in our community, ages 1 to 18, which spans a bigger broader span than what we currently serve with our kindergarten or preschool to 8th grade students. At this point, we're now into about the 7th week of serving meals, and we're up to serving 12,000 meals a week to our community. It's a contactless drive-through. They drive through the school, they open their trunk, and we walk right up and put all of the food right in their trunk. They tell us how many children they have in their family, and that's how many meals we serve to them. The families pick up 5 breakfasts and 5 lunch every time. It's been so successful that we're about to open the 2nd school this Friday, and we'll have 2 schools that run, and we anticipate serving about 24,000 meals a week to make sure that during this crisis time where, economically it's very difficult for our families, that we have the opportunity to serve food during this very difficult time for our families.
Now, you were in a meeting last week with other superintendents throughout the state, and there were a number of topics that were discussed, but one topic that came up was nutrition related to feeding students during the summer. And obviously, with budgets, there are a lot of superintendents. It was part of the discussion, superintendents that are maneuvering through their budgets and trying to figure out exactly how they're going to serve students during that summer program. You've been a numbers person for so much of your career, and you brought up during that meeting, yes, we're going to feed our students during the summertime. Tell me a little bit about how you came to that decision and what you would say to other district administrators who are right now kind of in that area where they're not sure if they're going to have the resources, whether it's supplies or fiduciary resources, to be able to feed during the summer.
Yes, our district has a strong commitment to continue feeding the community throughout the summer period. And with the coronavirus pandemic, we know that in the state of California, 1 in 4 adults currently is unemployed. We think that that number is very low. So our commitment remains strong to making sure that people have food, particularly in the community that we serve. About almost 90% of our students are qualified as low socioeconomic disadvantaged, with about 60% English language learners, and quite frankly, about 30% of our students qualify under the McKinney-Vento Act as homeless, which means 1 in 3 of our students can be characterized as homeless. Food is an essential need on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Because of that, we know that providing what we call a seamless summer meal program is absolutely essential. The federal meal program, Child Nutrition Meal Program, offers an application to school districts to provide seamless summer meals. My recommendation is to submit the application if you're a public school district to see if the federal meal program would pay and fund for those meals. We know that we're headed in that direction, and we will have, again, no break in meal service from the time our school year ends on June 4th all the way through to when we open school in the fall.
You have spent a lot of time at the state capitol lobbying for students, advocating for your school communities. And I want to give you a scenario because last week, Governor Newsom made mention of the possibility of reopening schools earlier than the normal academic year allows for. It wasn't a mandate, it was just a discussion topic, but it certainly caused some consternation, if you will, some concern within the districts for educators at all levels about, is that even possible? And I want to put you into this hypothetical one-on-one meeting with Governor Newsom. What are the resources that you're going to tell him your district needs to be able to reopen schools, whether it's early, whether it's on time, or whether it's late?
Well, first I'll start and thank the governor and his team for continuing to fund public education despite the school closures. It's enabled our schools to not only provide the meals, but to provide and to create and deploy high quality distance learning programs for all of our students. And during this time, that's absolutely essential. Second, I'll say that if I were making a recommendation to the governor and his team, it would be to lean on those who are the experts in the field of education, beginning with ACSA, who's established a partnership with the Education Coalition to create a reopening of schools task force. ACSA's committed to having this task force establish a phased approach to reopening our schools in the state of California that makes sense with safety at the top priority. How do we reopen schools and ensure the safety of our students, our staff, and our families? That's key. That's absolutely number one. Number two is when we reopen schools, what are the various options of school reopening in the fall that are available to districts to choose between? Those options have a range of spectrum that probably land in three worlds. The first world is, do you fully reopen and allow all students to come to school? Well, that's dependent upon the health department and what the health department deems as safe and necessary for social distancing and proper sanitation protocols in a school. So that's probably the last phase of reopening that we would get to. The second world is what we would call a blended learning environment. In a blended learning environment, students would come to school for a portion of the week or a portion of the school day or on certain days of the week. And then the other portion, they would continue their distance learning in their online learning classroom portal, like a Google Classroom portal. That's that second world. Likely that's the reality of what fall is going to be looking like for most schools. And then the third world is that we can't open the physical school plants at all because we're simply not prepared. The preparation needed to reopen schools is significant and substantive and will take time. Likely it's going to take a couple of months for us to be able to reopen because we've got to go in and make sure all of the schools are disinfected. We have to make sure that we have enough protective personal equipment or PPE equipment for not only all of our staff members, but also for our children. And then we also have to reconfigure all of the classrooms in each room to ensure that the proper social distancing, if it still remains at 6 feet apart, is able to occur in a classroom. So those are those three worlds. I rely heavily and am eagerly anticipating that phased approach, the reopening of schools task force that ACSA has to deploy about mid-May, that phased approach of what it looks like in the state of California to reopen our schools. Again, I know our governor has the best interest in mind for the safety and well-being of our children and the adults in the state of California. And now is the time to lean on the educational leaders and experts within the state to ask them, what does that look like, and what would the plan require to reopen our schools in a safe and in a reasonable manner?
A lot of work ahead, that's for sure. Gina Potter, thank you so much for being with us today. And folks, thank you so much for being with us today. Remember, every week, we'll be going out to another school, talking with another district administrator about the successes and challenges they are facing, and a very, very important topic involving public education and the COVID-19 pandemic. That is the ACSA Campus Tour. Thanks so much for being with us.